Kubernetes for Humans.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming back to Kubernetes for Human podcast. Today, with me in the show, we have Sebastian Kister. Sebastian, happy to have you here. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Thanks. Thanks for having me. And yeah, sure. You probably have seen me on a couple of Kubernetes events, KubeCon, or some podcasts regarding IT infrastructure and the culture in cloud native in general. And I'm, apart from my work in the CNCF and the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, I lead the Container Competence Center at Audi for the VW Group, and the Container Competence Center consults platforms, but also has a double role in having the standard in public cloud multi-tenancy as one of the use cases of platforms. It's in Audi.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's basically the main task. Yeah, obviously, if you are transforming and hands-on, like culturally moving something in the company, there's a whole bunch of additional things that comes up.
No, I think it sounds interesting, but before we'll dive into what you're currently doing, do you mind sharing a bit about your history? I guess you didn't start with Audi, right? So why programming? Why Kubernetes? If you can give us the major milestone that led you to where you are right now.
I have the weirdest CV you can imagine. I hope I'm not alone. So if you have a similar weird story, please share it on LinkedIn in a DM. I would happily read that and know that I'm not alone. But I started out as a musician, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So coming from music, and I majored in history and English for being a teacher, a high school teacher, Gymnasium, it says in Germany. And there I focused as well on a master's degree in indoctrination and propaganda and totalitarian systems. While I was working on that stuff, the totalitarianism, science, and the research, I also did software consulting on dominant design and UX UI for music software, and software music teachers can make use of in their coaching methods. And I also tried to culturally transform the curriculum-based music teaching to a people-first approach, even in music teaching, where I was like, you don't want to start on page 5 and know that you're on page 10 the next week. Mm-hmm. You have goals, and in your coaching, you have just 1 or 2 pupils in your lessons. You can afford to do coaching instead of teaching. Yeah, and obviously to do something from scratch, you need a shitload of software to do that, to pull it off. You need your materials home with your pupil when he's home, not when you are done with your day and prepare the materials or send out recordings and stuff. So I needed cloud systems very, very early in that period. And later on, I started in a privacy by design startup. And there we created a lot of different things. One of them was to combat against total surveillance on the internet, but nobody cared. And then Edward Snowden came in the news, and when all this surveillance things came up, still nobody cared.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, oh crap, if now nobody cares, it's super serious. We should have a B2B switch now. B2C was like that, and we created a B2B portfolio doing privacy by design, data infrastructure, and a cloud system that is GDPR compliant. That was before GDPR even existed. Also suitable for professional secret carriers like KPMG, Deloitte, and companies in that sector that were not allowed to use cloud or infrastructure that they don't own actually physically, because this technology excluded the system administrator technically, not organizationally, technically from access to the data. And that was new. And well, with my background, then it was kind of idealistic, right? So we worked and we had couple of many customers. After 4 years, it was like weapon industry, pharma industry, and
How many people were you?
and banks.
What-
It was like 40, 45 people
Nice.
internally. And then with like weapon industry, banks and pharma industry, I was like, okay, we're like killing the whistleblowers.
Yeah, no more
These companies.
right? So like it's quite the opposite.
So I was like, okay, fuck it, let's go to television. And there was another startup hiring that period, and that was creating from scratch a IPTV solution. And these guys, the founders, they just caught me with their vision, and it was something pretty cool to work on, from zero to hero, from no customers to market leader. And after that, I joined Audi actually already. And we created from scratch the Kubernetes competence center back then, which is now renamed into Container Competence Center and Platforms.
And like all of this time, like, you started more on like the human side of things, right? Like not like a hardcore, like technical. How did you did that transformation into knowing the inside and outs, both of the cultural part, but also the the software part of it? Like everything was like self-learned during those like startups, or
basically it's I know how to pull off a couple of things, especially in people environments, and I know how to work with people that today you would call that DevRel. My early stages, you would call that DevRel. My back then this term was non-existent. It was a good product owner, or actually he wasn't. But I know how to create business cases and sell stuff pretty well. So from a startup perspective, this was a perfect mix for a startup. And it also came in handy in an enterprise when it comes to new technology and adoption. Also when it comes to transformation, because there's always the mission to deliver. You only have an impact and you only can change something if it's business case. So a strong background in successful business creation is definitely came in handy in that career. And in the early stages until now, to be honest, you can only have an impact if you create a business case. And the depth that I reach is because of trust, mutual trust to the developers, and a leadership, a democratic leadership by guidance and by explaining why. My USP in the last 15 years was only to have this why and the next why and the third why. Why are we doing something? Challenge that every day, and you will reach the point where you can convince everybody in the team, and you will be a freaking strong team if you do that. And if you make that your culture, why are we doing this? Do we have all the reasons on the table? Is there something else? Is there somebody saying something different? Why you want to do it different? Can you convince all the others of your way? Because if that makes sense to you, there's a good chance it might make sense to everybody. So empower also minority ideas, where somebody brings something maybe unpopular to the table, and you ask why. And that's exactly how I learned the stuff, because everybody explained to me 10 times everything. And when they were challenging each other's ideas, I just learned in the meanwhile. I just wanted to have the third why. Why are we doing this? And so, okay, so we have to explain in depth now. So do it. And I hope I can follow you, but just try. I might rephrase it always with simpler words. And that is the first step of making it a business case, because the simple words are already the wording I need to sell it.
Well, I think like it's very interesting, and like it's interesting to hear. You worked in very small companies, and then Audi, right? Like the opposite. It is the same like mechanism of like asking why and like the challenging part. Is it the same? Like how was the experience? Like it's like a really big, like.
To be honest, my team at Audi is way smaller than my teams in the startups. Yeah. So when you look at the application teams in the IPTV solution, that was like 5, 6, 7 people per application, and an IPTV solution has a couple of applications, right? Then you have an infrastructure team, and you have a couple of other surrounding teams like UX, UI, that you also lead. And that makes it up to 25, 30, 35 people, peaking at, I think, 44 internal and external developers. So yes, definitely it's a smaller team now at Audi, but the numbers and the responsibilities are 100-fold, obviously. So the entire budget of where we started back in the days with the small companies is behind a couple of decimals. Probably would get lost in an Excel that I'm working now on. But the responsibility obviously is incredible. You have a high performance team that is working on, as a competence center. This is like, there is not only high performance teams in car manufacturers, people working with manufacturing companies and other big enterprises. No, that's the 10% of any company. And let's just be honest about it. It's every company has just an HPC of 10%. And high performance computing, I made out of it. You know what I mean, high performance team. And so as a competence center, the goal is to be bleeding edge, to be unpleasant sometimes in terms of opinionated stuff that is already going on, but always having the whys and convincing the even other brands that you can't put yourself into too much in the decision making there by delivery, by your product. You want to have the best product. So if we wouldn't have the best platform, I'm pretty sure I would have a hard time to convince somebody use this technology, because it just makes sense because of this, that, and the procurement here, the reason there, the pricing there. You can scale up this, and you get the operators from us. Just pay the taxes for that, and you can have it throughout the brands.
So let's really like deep dive into like your current like position, and you touched about it, but first of all, like how long is Audi being using Kubernetes, right? Like the first question. And the second question, let's talk about the internal platform, right? Like what you're like working, a bit about like why, right? Like, and why, how, and how do you guys measure success for your team or like for adoption and so on? So
that's many questions.
It is.
If I you just add another question after I answered one of the first ones. So Kubernetes is adapted since 2017, and it was adapted through a proprietary Audi control plane. If you remember the market back then, it's already 7 years ago, isn't it? Ooh, that explains the bold hair here. So the proprietary Audi Kubernetes control plane was before there was EKS even. So it was directly deployed into EC2 and the e-tron, that first fully electric car from Audi. The loading cable function was developed on that system. And a couple of other platforms, they had their Jenkins deployed on that solution, on that proprietary control plane. The software development centers back in the day, they used a platform called Serenity, which is just a product name, and they had their development tools running on that solution. So from 2017 and 2019, the control plane market kind of peaked, I would say. If you look at the KubeCon this year, you've seen startups already going into the AI fields. Last year you had different trends. In 2019, it was like control planes all over the place. Everybody had its control plane, and it was quite clear even in 2019 that 80% of these solutions won't exist next year. So we put our bets on a couple of enterprise-ready horses, I would say, and we are still very happy with that decision. So we adapted a enterprise-grade solution from one of the big vendors, and then we kind of built that to a productive state where we made people happy. We made customers happy with that, and it drove adoption. But now we're just one platform doing public cloud. And you can't imagine how many applications only in Audi. There are more than 6,600 applications. And scale that up in VW Group. It's insane. It's 220 companies in the VW Group.
So I must ask, like, how do you know they are happy? So many people, you don't know all of them, I guess, right? Like, it's not like you're eating lunch and like asking, hey, are you happy with your current system? So
I can eat a lot. Don't underestimate that. No. Yeah, that's really something you're completely right about. You can't work without KPIs. You're referring to that, and how to measure success and customer satisfaction. That is something that is still a people thing. First of all, we have barely people knowing how to do anything in Kubernetes in these application teams. Mostly they're responsible for something that they have not too much idea about, and technically. So the service responsible is often an advocate from the users of that application, not from the development team. Meaning, if there is an outsourced development team, they're developing an application for a use case in technical development, for example, or in electric engineering or wherever, and they just use this application to calculate stuff for engines, for heat measurements or whatever. And these guys, they're like, I have no idea. I don't even know in which language this application is written. I just use it. I want to input here a couple of parameters, and I want that outcome. And I tell that to these people who develop it. Okay, so how to run that on your systems. And basically, we are structured as every huge enterprise in huge silos, in smaller silos, in medium-sized silos, and in small silos. But it's a silo structure. And you can't deny it. Even the entire finance process is based upon that. The HR process is based upon that. It's it's a reality you can fight in your startup for the people, not in a company with 90,000 employees. And in a VW group with 440,000 employees, this won't work. And the latest thing, even the brands are silos. Audi is one silo, VW is one silo, Porsche is one silo. Of course it is like that. And it's not possible to do it the other way or completely different, because you do have legal entities. These are legal entities and they have compliance all over the place. So we can't just simply share code. We have to estimate the value of the code and then let them pay taxes for it if they get the repo. You know what I mean? There is a silo. I just want to make that point. You can fight as much as you want, but you won't on a big scale lose it organizationally. You have to make that through people and culture. You can avoid the disadvantages of silos by establishing a culture of them talking to each other, of them knowing each other, of them working with each other and automating through organizational borders. So what we do in this example that I posed before is we go from one end of a non-existing end-to-end responsibility to the very other end. And that is sometimes even an external development team. And I was asked at the Kubernetes community days in the Google HQ in Zurich, in Switzerland, by the audience, isn't the service responsible very unhappy if you bypass him? You just go all the way to the developer and you don't even talk to the man in the middle here? No, he's quite happy. First of all, it's less work for him. Second, there's less misunderstanding in any specification of the container that I expect to reach my infrastructure. And there's one KPI for you now, and that is time to market. It's one of the strongest KPIs that we measure with our customers. And to give you a real example, all these silos, these handover processes of a product increment process until release, test prod release, these handover processes before, they sometimes took 6 months for a already done application to go into production. This doesn't apply anymore in today's world where we have a Kubernetes release every 3 months. You can't do that. The product increments of even the infrastructure that we're using, our infrastructure deploys every second week. The done project, a project is never done. It's a product or it's not a product. But if this old project mentality of a product cycle of 5 to 7 years, it doesn't apply anymore. We can't work like this. And the transformation in this case is a time to market driven transformation where in a car manufacturer can't work like super strong MVPs. Won't work because it won't be on the street if it's a super M MVP. But if you do that, we stick to that example. If you automate your continuous integration and continuous development efforts through these silos and through the man in the middle who just says, if you guys are happy, I'm happy, and they just adapt to the cycles and to the release cycles, to the increments, to the breaking changes that we inform them about 4 weeks in advance, usually. and if they continuously work on that, their second and third and fourth product that they release on that platform has a time to market of literally 2 hours. They just get the new namespace. They know already what to do. The workload is already decentral, microservice oriented, and maybe has a vertical from the cloud provider native services like RDS connected to the container, or EFS, EOS, S3, directly connected through their own AWS account to the container, and not rearranged through the platform, because that's something I don't want to see on the platform. But that's a completely different question. If you want to go into that, I can continue, but let's wrap it up here.
Let's ask, like, you talk about the fact that you took like those like huge processes and shorten and squeeze them. Tell me a story about like something that didn't work out as expected on Audi. Like I guess like you guys had some projects that were less successful, maybe from the technical aspect, or maybe in the culture, or somewhere like in between. Like I'll be happy to, if it's okay, if you can share like one of
Yeah. Basically, from the platform perspective, we created this platform team, and the product teams around the platform. Like if there is a managed service on the platform, I create a product team for it and make it platform agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
So that any kind of service should be consumable by different platforms.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And in this, I called this PAXI, this mission, Platform Agnostic Group Service Integration. And it's not like it's a, I have a bad story about this. It just took 3 years. You know what I mean? When I initiated that mission, until it really got adapted and understood, it just literally took 3 years. When people understood, okay, we need kind of lifecycle and maintenance is like the main ongoing cost. It's not like you create a feature and then there's a feature. There's like in a platform, maintaining and lifecycling that feature and enabling your customers in that feature takes a tremendous ongoing continuous effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really sure, status quo, if it's really understood by everyone, especially in terms of our finance processes. I think we reached a point where we can work with, but that was really very, very heavy. And on the other side, I wanna also tell a very nice story. I was just half a year into the project and at the company, where I was able to take a open sourcing process, a disclosure process of Audi intellectual property, and it got accepted. Our lawyers approved it and pushed it, and since 2019, Audi employees are able to contribute to open source during their work time, and that is still unique in the VW group. That is amazing, actually. And I think this year, this year, I think VW and some other brands are also making this possible. This is huge, actually, for an old school industry to embrace actively open source, and that's really something very positive. And that was super fast. So sometimes you expect something to be very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's there. And then there's something you expect to be like famous low-hanging fruit in terms of culture, people, processes, even tools. And you're like stuck forever. For literally, it was 3 years for something so simple that we call today, probably we gave it a name. It's called platform engineering. I think this is a very old thing. And everybody kind of did it before without having a name for it, but like consciously doing it now and giving it a name, promoting the culture. That's probably what I was lacking in the last 3 years. But it arrived. And with the help of the entire community, it made it also easier for me to communicate it better.
let's talk a bit about maybe like the future, or like how do you see things progress in the ecosystem, both the Kubernetes and like the DevOps like ecosystem. What do you see? What do you think? Like, where are we going to be like when we're talking like in 3 years from now? What's going to be very different?
In terms of DevOps, that is something you have to differentiate between enterprises and between small companies. You build it, you run it is definitely something that gets more and more difficult in big scale environments.
Mm-hmm.
And as Audi, I think DevOps is something to do POCs. It's something to have like a research task you can do. You can try out something for labs, for adapting some bleeding edge idea and technology. You could do that. And for really special projects that really need to go fast on something and avoid processes and guardrails of any kind. Not of all kinds, obviously, since it's a compliance-driven company as well. But in terms of DevOps, I'm definitely telling everyone who joins also Audi that this is a company where we specialize. As I told you before, 6,600 applications. If they all would be DevOps, it's just an overkill. We wouldn't build cars, only applications probably.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have 13,000 developers. We don't have 6,000 security experts. So that's the thing that you can only do in a very special environment. The future, as I see it, is driven by the necessity to have a knowledge sharing layer and an enablement layer and a couple of standards, and then focusing on interface security rather than on enforced policies and guardrails that are not applicable for everyone to use that kind of infrastructure. Also, the layering is very, very important. We have a very classic understanding of how full stack or how a layer, even cloud, works.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many horizontal and vertical lines actually that you could make use of. We do have a cloud foundation, for example. Obviously, compute comes from there. The compute is shared over all the projects.
Mm-hmm.
But as I told you before, I won't resell an AWS service, eliminating the last 5 nines or even a digit before the point, to resell that service for maybe 20% of the projects.
Mm-hmm.
RDS might even be 50%, but I only focus on 100 and 0 cases, not even 80-20. I want 100%. 100% is just security and runtime.
Mm-hmm.
Secure runtime. That's a 100% use case. Everybody needs a secure runtime. That's it. And then if it's 99.1, it's already special interest for me. It's not for everyone. And if you need something like a service on top, then you can already start to decentralize that from the platform and make it a product team for the platform engineering that supplies this service to all the other platforms as well. And we have so many platforms. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like I have the one platform. No, there are many on-premise platforms even. And even from my platform, from the public cloud platform, the standard in public cloud multi-tenancy, some projects need to connect to on-prem, or many projects even do that. They need to get data from on-premise systems, crunch them and throw them back at the system. So the use cases are so diverse that this decentralization of platform services, which is a cloud fault in the end, isn't it? Is something that we see more and more and more in the future, because we can't afford to do things twice, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times. If you have 30 platforms, for example, and we do 30 times different container image scanning, then you need 30 people life cycling and maintaining that container image scanning on that platform. That doesn't make sense at all. So that's an enterprise focus in the next 5 years, to really strip that down, not to the one platform, but to the decentralization of platform services, and create a 100-0 use case on secure runtime, where you can on top create business integration layers or business domain platforms, and give it whatever kind of name. Maybe business integration layer makes more sense because everybody has a platform nowadays. But if you have like a couple of managed services, what is it? Yeah, a couple of managed services serving 100-0 cases for a homogeneous group of clients. But it's not my 100-0 case. I'm an infrastructure guy and the team. So my 100% zero use case is secure runtime. And then I have a couple of platforms above that are consuming my secure runtime, or even getting clusters from me, but they can supply some managed services based upon that secure runtime for their 100-0 cases.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it really, like it makes sense. We have like 2 more minutes or something like that, so okay. I'll try. Let's do something like a bit different. Let's talk about hobbies a bit, right? Like we talked about it earlier before we went live. So maybe you can talk a bit about, I don't know, like booze, metal, the connection to those and Kubernetes, and share a bit like like interesting details about things outside of like the Audi group and Kubernetes, which are important.
Yeah, life quality for me is 3 things: good drinks, good food, good company. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need to create that on your own, because especially in terms of good drinks, I find it very hard to go somewhere and to really enjoy the beverages there, because it's just not the best quality that you could make it. So I created my own spirits company, and I create only things that I can't buy in a better quality. Mm-hmm. So if I could buy it, I don't need it. So then I just buy it. I don't need to create something that I can buy in an amazing quality. But
buy basis beer, like like the classical, right? Like also on everything, not only infra.
Yeah. Sorry, come again.
No, I said that the buy basis build. Like, should I build?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's the classic decision tree in IT as well. And the make or buy decision in here, for example, is definitely you can't go to the supermarket and expect a decent quality. And I'm very sensitive to bad alcohol, actually. So I get immediate headaches and stuff. So I really sense it very quickly if it's not of a decent quality. And the other thing that you mentioned is that's so in the beginning, I was a musician. I did Renaissance music, but also metal. And the last festival that we've played was in 2015. And then it came to an end, but it was a wonderful time, and it was really fun.
The same year Kubernetes came out.
Yes, exactly. I had to repurpose life, from being on the stage in festivals to Kubernetes.
It's still orchestrating.
That's
true. Can I ask a question? I have a question here from the back end. A wise man once said, when you do transformation, people first, people solve problems. When you do it process first, people satisfy process. I don't know if you've heard one before.
I do that.
Can you elaborate a bit about it, and what does it mean for you being people-centric, people first? And this is also something that we really relate to, but I think this is a good thing to end on, if you can share your thoughts on this sentence.
Yeah, thanks for quoting me. This is kind of surreal to see your quotes all over LinkedIn sometimes, and you're like, cool, they're listening, nice. No, just kidding. This is really something coming from the heart, and also having a strong business impact. You have seen all these enterprises in the past, they have they called it transformation, but they really just restructured and did the same as they did before. After they've been restructuring. It's because they chose a new process, and the process won't be able to take into account what changed in the market in the meanwhile, or what will change on the market that they didn't even take into account. So because you can't foresee a new world in 10 years, and processes are they kind of stick in enterprises for a while, you know. So often process-centric organizations, they create a process and then buy the tools to to fulfill the process, or to map the process, and then they tell the people use this tool to map the process and follow through the process. But you get the idea. That's already like a work order to just follow the process. And you're like not very innovative in that. But if you give people like a problem, like, here, we need to solve this, I have no idea. So I'm a musician, so sorry, I have no idea. Can you solve this with whatever tech? And then they're like, yeah, Kubernetes might be amazing technology for it. And I go, okay, well, try it out. But in anything that you do, please make it 110%. I want you to own that fucking thing, yeah? Make it the best thing ever. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they're like really solving the problem. And then like with the customer example that I gave you a couple of minutes before, they automate that. And then they automate, like, they bypass the service responsible, as I told you before, but they automate something from the development to the infrastructure. And that is based upon the people process that has already solved the problem. So they chose the best tech to solve a problem because you focused on them and said, I have no idea. Make something happen and nail it. And then you automate, and the automation of a technical solution, that is kind of a process that you can processualize later on in the steering committees. And that's what I actually do in the security field. We created with the best technology something and automated it. And then I went to the IT security steering committee and told them, let's make a process out of that. That's solving everything, every issue that we have currently. Make it mandatory for everyone. And that way you have a process in the end that has already proven to solve a problem.
Yeah.
It evolved from solving problems. So giving yourself the time and letting loose this strong sense of control and letting people, like real people, explore something, research something, instead of giving them tasks, give them responsibilities. That's what I tell everyone. I have no idea what you're doing, but anything that you do it 110%.
No, I think, yeah, we have to go. So
okay.
one sentence. No, sorry, Sebastian. I don't want to. So, like, it was a pleasure. I do apologize on cutting a bit short. But I hope to see you next time in KubeCon. If you can, you can do an after party with the band or something like that, like a combination of KubeCon, music, metal. I think there will be like a good audience there. And next, like in a couple of months in Chicago, right?
True story, yeah. Would make sense. Thank
Bye.
you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. And see you again soon.
Likewise. Watch.